Hello my friends, it's Monday. Welcome back. In today's video I have three big sections for you. We begin with the Frontlines analysis, then we move on to Russian economy, which is also the oil refinery bingo, and we end with international news, which is Russian drones in Romania and NATO's response to Russian drones in Poland. There is a big response, we'll get to it. But we'll begin with the front lines, and of course we will begin with Dobropillia section in the Pokrovsk area. You can see on this map there are three big encirclements forming in the Dobropillia section, one to the further north in Kucherev Yar. This section is known for Ukrainians not striking with infantry, but just letting the Russians be in the encirclement, starving them out and bombarding them from the distance, aka saving their manpower. There is no need to send infantry in if you know Russians have no chance of connecting to these troops. Second encirclement that is being reported only one day ago is here. I don't know what to call it, Volodymyrka, Arnoe, Shakhtove encirclement. You can call it what you want. We will go into it detailed. We have some satellite footage that shows us where Ukrainian troops exactly are in this small connection that Russians still have to the salient. And the third encirclement that is happening is this big one right here. Ukrainians need to connect south of Novotoretsk and north of Razine. Now I know it gets complicated. Let's delete this and let's see where Ukrainians exactly are. Well, look at this. This is the second encirclement I just circled, and this is the tightest point of Russian connection to this area. And Ukrainian troops, Ukrainian tanks were geolocated west of Mayak. Where is Mayak? Well, I'll show you. Mayak is right here. Look at that. Volodymyrka was just liberated a few days ago. Now Ukrainian troops are spotted about here, where I made the X. So that's west of Mayak. They moved from Mayak. Of course, the point is to connect to the other side of the Ukraine-controlled territory, cut off this Russian connection. I mean, let's be honest, this is a field. This is a symbolic connection. It doesn't mean Russians have troops here. It means that this area is not directly controlled by Ukrainian infantry and they don't have firing sectors over it. Of course, drones can fly here, but if Russians really want to pull out of this section right here, they could do so with some losses. But when Ukrainians physically connect these two sides, establish firing sectors, push down and push south and push north, these Russian-controlled areas, then there will be no connection anymore, and we can talk about fully the second encirclement. It hasn't yet happened, but as I said, Ukrainian tanks are spotted west of Mayak, and they're also spotted east of Nikonarivka. This has also been geolocated. Well, Nikonarivka is just on the other side. Let me draw some for you again. See, Mayak is right here, Nikonarivka is right here. Ukrainian forces have been spotted on this field and in this area. So there is not much needed to connect up. The issue is Russian Air Force and Russian drones, of course. It's just the field, but you are not in a tree line, you're not in a trench, you're on a field, meaning there are mines, there are Russian drones, there's Russian glide bombs. This is the heaviest part. To complete this encirclement, Ukrainians would need to control this area here on the north and these woods right here on the south, and this would make this encirclement here, the second one, complete. It's in the making. I'll end the Dobropillia front with a summary for you. What's unfolding now on this sector is nothing short of historic. Ukrainian assault units have launched one of the most successful offensive operations in recent months, while the enemy scrambles to advance. Our forces are calmly and methodically tearing them apart, cutting supply lines, isolating pockets, and crushing them in intersecting fire zones. See, this is what I'm talking about. To encircle the second encirclement, They need these intersecting fire zones on that field where the Ukrainian troops were spotted. Where it's a random tank or a random APC, that's not encirclement. You need permanent infantry positions, intercepting fire zones, drones up in the air. So if Russian troops do want to pull out, they will be destroyed. That's an encirclement. It's not the reality yet. In just 2 weeks, something one thought impossible is now a reality. Russian forces are trapped in operational and in some areas tactical encirclement. On the map, 3 large cauldrons are taking shape, the jaws are closing. Russia rushed its most combat-ready troops to this axis, including special forces, in a desperate attempt to break the ring. But even their elite units couldn't stop the hammering advance of Ukrainian assault troops. We're talking about the 1st Azov Corps, one of the most elite Ukrainian combination of units. The fighting is intense, brutal, at times face-to-face, but the casualty ratio speaks volumes, 5-1 in Ukraine's favor, and even higher in some efforts. I'll leave that here. It sounds like it's all rosy for the Ukrainians. Of course, it is not. Russian guided bombs are wreaking havoc because about 50% of the entire Russian glide bomb hits are in this area, and Ukrainians are taking heavy casualties because of Russian glide bombs. So it's not all rosy. Now, my friends, we will go to the Kupyansk sector because this is another area where kinds of movements on the front are happening right now and not for the Ukrainian favor. See, Russians have established themselves strongly in Kindrashivka, that is north of Kupyansk, and they're trying to close this cauldron right here. I have no indications that Ukrainians have any kind of troops here. If they do face encirclement right now, and it's quite bad. What is interesting in Kupyansk sector, though, is that Russians are using pipelines. I actually have a video for you. I mean, it's quite rare. See, this is where it is confirmed by Ukrainian drones that Russians are coming out of the pipelines. Let's watch the video for a moment. So they're crawling out of these pipelines. They have their bags, their equipment. Look at that. Pipelines are a good way to advance because you're safe from drones, you're safe from air attacks, you're safe from shelling. So where did they surface? Where did the rats surface, as you might ask? I'll show you the exact location where the rats surfaced, where they crawled out of the pipeline. The quality of the map might not be very good, but this is where they entered the surface. And as you can see, it's about a few hundred meters from the Russian-controlled area where it ends. You might ask, why are they crawling in a pipe a few kilometers in a Russian-controlled area? Well, the same issue, my friends, because all of this area is hit and hit and hit again with Ukrainian drones. If you're inside a pipeline, underground pipeline, you're safe from that. So the surface here, although it is a Russian-controlled area, it makes sense because you're safe from Ukrainian drones. There are also info that Russians are surfacing in Kupyansk. They're trying to get behind Ukrainian drone positions to then storm them from the back to confuse these Ukrainian so-called drone bubbles and take their attention away from these frontal areas where Russian infantry is usually storming. This is what the Russians do. They try to break up Ukrainian attention, drone units' attention. If it's focused on a frontal area, nobody will pass. If it's focused in the back because somebody's suddenly crawling out of a pipeline and storming you from the rear, then it makes it easier also for the Russian storm units to advance on the forward side. By the way, we actually have a video of these Russian troops in the pipeline. Let's watch it. Look at that. This is how they have to crawl. I mean, it's really cramped and claustrophobic. Would be an issue for me. I mean, I'm a big dude. I'm 6'4". I weigh about 250 pounds, something like that. I'm massive, so I couldn't do this. But they have these little carts with the wheelies and stuff, and that's what they do. A few kilometers on the ground in a pipe like that, it's a few kilometers that you're not being attacked by Ukrainian UAVs. But things are worse here than the Dobropillia section, because as you can see, well, this here is Kupyansk, this urbanized area, and there is a settlement called Moskovka, symbolic, right? Well, Russians are advancing in this sector. They're closing this cauldron. If Ukrainians, of course, cannot break them up like they do in Dobropillia, but it doesn't look like it right now. These are the new urbanized areas Russians have occupied, taken into control, these two north and south of Radivka. And this is Radivka where they emerged from the pipeline. So you know what's happening here. Not so good as in the Dobropillia section. But now, my friends, I'll zoom out. I'll go to the final axis, which is the Sumy axis. Northern Ukraine, northern eastern, mostly northern Ukraine. And Ukrainians have advanced here. I mean, it's a big movement on the front lines, so I gotta show it to you. This is the state border, by the way. Konstantinivka is a Russian-occupied village of Ukraine. It's a border village. You can see the movement when I play around with the timeline a little bit. Ukrainians are pushing the Russians over the state border, and that is the goal, just to push them over the state border. As you can see, there is a water body here. Crossing this is... They're not going to cross it. They're going to go around. Let's call it how it is. You're not going to cross this under fire. You're probably going to take and circle around it. The goal of the Ukrainians, of course, is to get to the other side of this water body and to push the Russians out from Ukraine, because the state border is 200-300 meters from Konstantinivka. So if you take this settlement, you gotta push them to the other side of the border. It's that black and white in this section. Let's take a look at some videos from the front lines. And immediately we jump to the southern front to Zaporizhia, because Ukrainian HUR, again with their legendary drone videos, you can always recognize them by this style. Night vision drone footage, fixed wing long range strike drones that attack Russian air defense systems. In this specific one, Book 3, Russian air defense system is taken out. This one right here. But just bear in mind that there is another one next to it. And there might be even more behind it, meaning there's much more work to be done on this field. But yeah, slow and steady, go and hog the Book 3. Done, destroyed. Book 3, very expensive, as is every air defense system in the world, anywhere. It's very expensive. So another one taken out. Now this next video comes from the Russian front. They report that they have an issue. Mice are eating their drones. This specific one is a Molniya drone. Let's look at it. The gist of the video is that these things, rodents, that run not only on the dugouts, ramparts, and fall from the above, but also gnaw the sides. Okay, he's gnawing on the side. Look at that. That's mice or rats. They're biting and eating this plastic. The subtitles are quite off on this video. It's hard to read them, but I'll tell you what's the issue. I mean, mice are getting, I kid you not, they're getting high off of this plastic. There is a mixture of certain plastics that gets rodents high if they eat it, and this has it, the Molniya drone wings. So they eat it and they get high and they run around all across the trenches. They fall from the ceiling. So you have an issue of mice. Right now you have an issue of mice getting high off of your drones. I kid you not, weird things happen in war, man. This is crazy. But yeah, Russian drones get the mice high. I'm betting it's the biolaboratories of Ukraine that produce these mice to attack these drones. Now we go back into the pipelines a little bit, because in a different pipeline, Ukrainian troops installed a razor wire. So you're a Russian soldier, you want to get defended against Ukrainian FPVs, you get into the pipe, you crawl a few days, by the way. They crawl days in these pipelines because it takes time. But then you run into this razor wire. Now, if you have any connection with the razor wires, it will destroy you. It will tear you apart. There's no way to go through this with not destroying entire clothing on you. You cannot push it, you cannot pull it. It is like it is. You gotta go back. So a few days in a pipeline and then you gotta turn around and go back, because Ukrainians installed wires in the pipe. Again, crazy stuff happens in war, my friends. Now I want to introduce you again to a Russian squad, and I would call this the Timo Electric Scooter Squad. Look at that. Let's put on some sound. They don't make any noise because they're electric, of course. And they have an entire squad. I think this is half a platoon here. 2 squads even. They go one by one. This is a charge, by the way. It's a quiet charge. No, ura! No, it's quiet, electric scooter. They don't make any sound. Look at that. Oh my god, they were never seen again, of course. And I will end with the frontline segment of this video with the Russian units' water problems. Water, you know, it's difficult to transport. It's really heavy. You cannot compress it in any way. You gotta transport it how it is. So they don't really do that because Storm Z unit don't live long in the front, so when they're deployed, they're given a few liters and they go to die. So the ones who do survive have to get their own water. In this instance, they get it from how do you call this? Storm pipe? Sorry, I don't know how to call it in English. I'm sure you recognize it by the look of it. There is still water in here. You know what is still water? I'm not going to go into it, but it's bad, 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 bad. It will kill you. If you jump in it, it might kill you. If you drink it, it definitely might kill you. You will get the shits. What they do is they take that old still water, they put toilet paper, and then they let it drip through it. So this will ease up the color a little bit, but it definitely doesn't save you. I'll just bring you little examples over here. Chemical and heavy metal risks. Toilet paper is not a safe filter. Bacteria, viruses, protozoa, helminths, parasitic worms. I mean, all of this stuff will not get cleared out with toilet paper. So these troops have it. I mean, they're on the front. Nobody really cares if they got the shits or not, if they have the parasites or not, but they do. And that's, you know, if they're not going to die of Ukrainian drones, they in the end will die of malnutrition because all of the parasites that will take over their gut. It's really bad. My friends, you love the best comment section, and in each video now I will read you one of the best comments of the previous video. And in this one, it's MRD594 says, looks very much like the Motti tactic in the Mayak area, cutting the Russians in bite-sized pieces. Mayak, remember, it's in Dobropillia, it's where the 3 encirclements are happening. It looks truly like Ukrainians are cutting them. See, Motti, correct me if I'm wrong, but in Finnish it should mean the firewood made into small pieces to be put onto the stove. Moitti tactics in the Winter War meant that these big Russian columns that advanced on the Mannerheim line, for example, they were broken apart into smaller ones and then just eliminated, destroyed. Because it was easier to destroy because they were smaller units then. And they couldn't move away from the road because they really couldn't move much in the snow. And the outcome was really beautiful. Let me just find some photos to you. I'm not sure if I can show them. But yeah, you moitti them up, you make them into pieces, and boom, that's the outcome. So that's why I like this comment, because it really looks like the first Azov Corps of Ukraine is using the Moitti tactics. Now, who is leading the first Azov Corps? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because this guy, Colonel Denis Prokopenko, has strong Finnish roots. He's very connected. I mean, his grandfather fought in the Winter War against the Russians using the Moitti tactics. And now we see First Azov Corps led by this dude using the Moitti tactics near Mayak on the Russians. I love when this specific history repeats itself. But okay, my friends, now let's do Buy Me a Coffee members. I didn't have any in the previous video, so I thank you so much for joining up, because today we actually have 5. We have Jeremy Marsk, we have No, Kirbe, and Kirbe became a big one, so thank you very much. Sometimes, I mean, the views are a little bit down, so we don't get any new members on Buy Me a Coffee, so if somebody joins up for a bigger number, I'm always really glad. Thank you. Then we have Kila Kokker. And finally, Someona. Now, Someona obviously wanted to stay anonymous, but he also joined, or she, of course, joined for a bigger amount. So thank you, Kirbe and Someona, for pushing up the bar. It really means a lot to me. If you like my channel, Buy Me a Coffee link is in the description below. Now, my friends, the second segment of the video, which is Russian economy. I will begin it for you with the strike summary because now we finally have the summary of August. August was a great month for Ukrainians, a really horrible month for Russian refineries. August map confirmed Ukrainian drone and missile strike across Russia. It records 45 incidents. Yeah, incidents. Targets include 8 oil depots and gas facilities, 14 refineries, 2 airfields, 12 railway sites, 3 ports, and warehouses, plus 6 defense industry enterprises. And you can see them on the map, most of course on the European side of the Ural Mountains, but that doesn't mean much because Ukrainians can hit further if they want to. Look at this one here. Here, my friends, you can see a map visualizing perfectly which Russian oblasts now have fuel issues, fuel shortages, diesel and gasoline. I'll show it to you in every video because this updates all the time. Blue means price increase, and dark blue is big price increase, light blue is little price increase, orange is issues with fuel or issues with the phone and internet. And you can see, look, over half of Russian regions are strongly affected already by this. Now here is a list, here is a map pinpointing all locations connecting to Russian pipelines, fuel depots, oil refineries, just fossil fuels exports and making money off of them because that's what feeds this Russian invasion of Ukraine. You dismantle this network, you dismantle Russia as a state. It's that black and white. That's why Ukrainians are doing it. Death by 1,000 cuts. And since Russian size has always been its advantage against the Germans, against the French in the Napoleonic War, but it's also its disadvantage because you have all these oil refineries, these juicy targets that you cannot really defend because it's such a vast area. Just there's not enough air defense systems in the world to defend Russia. So mostly these refineries are defended by Defense Ministry employees who fire more than 1,000 rounds from a machine gun, another 200 from a heavy machine gun. Meaning machine guns, heavy machine guns. People with Kalashnikovs, I'll simple it for you. That's the main defense against Ukrainian drones, and it doesn't really work, as we can see. I'll show you it on a photo also. This is a makeshift air defense system. 2 machine guns, light machine guns connected together to a thingy, and then you fire it if you see a drone. And you might hit it, you might not hit it. If they attack at night, you're definitely not gonna hit it. That's not gonna do to defend against the most important facilities of your country, but that's how it is. With the current tempo, ChatGPT gave Russia only 45 days. The Ukrainians are on steroids in dismantling this system I just showed you. The oil depots, oil pipelines, gas pipelines, everything. 24% of refining capacity already offline, 12 refineries hit in just 45 days. At this rate, Russia's refinery industry faces total collapse within a year, with devastating consequences for its economy and war efforts. No, the truth is, if Russian refining capacity collapses totally, there will not be Russia anymore. It's so tightly connected. Alright, my friends, I know you have been waiting for it. The specific strikes and the oil refinery bingo. See, the bingo card is right here. And yesterday, this one was attacked, the second biggest refinery in all of Russia. Kirishi refinery, 20.1 million tons of refined oil products per year, and it was struck. So soon you will get your bingo across the board. I want to bring you Ivan Atrakovsky, who is a ultra-right Russian nationalist. I quote him: "The fuel crisis in Russia, which followed the attacks by Ukrainian kamikaze drones, is becoming increasingly severe." Why I read you this? Because this comes from Russians. You know, if they want to hide something, if they don't want to hide something, if they're telling the truth out of desperation, it all gives us good information. If at the end of August there was gasoline shortage recorded in the Baikal region, Primorye, the Kuril Islands and Crimea, in September it spread to Ryazan, Nizhny Novgorod, Saratov, Samara, Ulyanovsky, Penza, Rostov, Astrakhan regions, as well as Kalmykia and Tatarstan. In addition, fuel supply disruptions are recorded in the Amur, Magadan, Sakhalin regions, Khabarovsk territory, Yakutia, the Jewish Autonomous Region, and Chukotka. The authorities are unable to protect our strategic facilities, oil refineries, said by the man himself. I think he speaks the truth out of desperation. See, this is the Kirishi oil refinery in Leningrad region. It's the second biggest one. You can see it burning right here. Nice, beautiful barbecue. I have one even better video for you that shows exactly where it is. Look at this. It's beautiful. Here is Ukraine. Here is St. Petersburg. Here is Estonia. This is about 200 clicks from the Estonian border. About 3 to 4 hours where I am physically now is St. Petersburg. And this is the Kirishnev. I'm reading slow, man. But this is the oil refinery right here. Look at the massive size of it. If you would be walking around here as a pedestrian, I mean, you're walking in a city. These are streets. It's an oil refinery. It's not a city, but looks like it. Anyway, they destroyed the refining towers. I saw it on a video. 2 of the refining towers are burning, and the photos here are pretty also. They destroyed the heart of this refinery. You could put it like that. But this was not the only one they hit yesterday. Actually, they hit the Kirishi refinery in the Leningrad region right here, close to Estonia. But they also hit the Pashneft refinery right here. So 2 of the refineries were knocked out cold yesterday. But it's not only the oil refineries. Ever since the beginning of August, Ukrainians have maniacally struck Russian railways. Everywhere, all the time, in occupied territories and in Russia. For example, this one happened yesterday. It's near St. Petersburg. These carts are empty, I mean fuel tanks, but they derailed this train. They attacked the railways, and this massive derailment happened. It looks beautiful, honestly, if I look at it. You don't really see much videos of trains derailed. Of course, rails are quite easy to repair. They will do it in a week. But still, if you do it and do it and do it, it will slow everything down and clog the trains up. I mean, it's bad for the logistics. That wasn't the only train attack. There's more. This was the Leningrad region in the Luga district. 15 empty tank cars were off the tracks, but in the Gachina district, near Semrina station, a locomotive was derailed. And here is a video for you. I'm so glad I have videos about these today, because sometimes I don't. Look at that. By the way, it's not like Russia has a lot of these locomotives. They're running short, actually, because partisans are burning them all the time. It's an issue to find these, actually, in Russia. They're having a shortage, which is weird. With this, my friends, I'll end the Russian economy and I'll go to international news. And immediately, we will open up with paratroopers, NATO paratroopers, jumping out of a Belgian plane over Lithuania, very close to Kaliningrad Oblast. This is part of the training operation Eastern Sentry. This is a direct response to Russia's drones in Poland. This is decided in the Article 4 meetings that Poland called Article 4 of NATO. Well, they decided we're going to do Operation Eastern Sentry. We're going to deploy tanks, troops, and planes, fire jets to Poland, and they did. And part of this was, of course, this training of paratroopers. But it's not all. There is secondary effects to this threat to Poland. Polish people are having this soft national awakening. It's not like in Ukraine, but it's similar. There's massive numbers of young men who are now joining up. I mean, they joined up in 2022 with the military, but now after the drones went to Poland, this threat is leveled up. So tens of thousands of Poles are voluntarily undergoing military training due to the threat from Russia. More than 20,000 Polish citizens are already undergoing or have completed military training in the first half of 2025 alone. According to him, by the end of the year, about 40,000 more volunteers are expected, twice as many as 2022. So we're expecting not a national awakening, but a massive interest peak in volunteer military service. In Estonia, we have territorial defense forces for it. So I'm not sure what the Polish have, but definitely, as you can see, They're joining up and they're ready to defend their country, and they don't have a weak military. On the opposite, they have one of the strongest military on the European continent. By the way, French Rafale fighter jets were deployed to Poland. 3 additional Rafale fighter jets as part of the Eastern Sentry defense mission of NATO were deployed. And these guys, I mean, again, I'm so glad I have a video. These are the Rafales lifting up from Poland. French jets in Poland. There's also F-35s in Poland. So Poland is massively militarized right now. I'm so glad to see that. And again, I'll show you a few videos of armor being deployed into Poland. Additional troops were being deployed from Western countries. I'm glad to see that. Now there's another video. Military equipment moving closer to the front also. Last video I mentioned to you that Poland closed all the border crossing with Belarus and Russia. Well, when I say all, I mean all. Polish mean business. Here you can see them closing a railway. Not just closing, just, oh, you cannot get through. No, they're physically barricading everything connected to borders, border crossings. Nothing will get through. They will build barriers for trains even. And why is this a big thing? Well, because a lot of traffic still goes through railways, through Poland, and through trucks on the roads also. Everybody's losing money because of it. Poland is losing money, Belarus is losing money, Russia is losing money, everybody. And Polish are still doing it. Why am I saying this? Is because they know what they're losing and they have analyzed it and they're doing it. For them, their national safety is number one concern. Money comes second. Everything comes second. But national safety is number one concern. There are trains who were supposed to go through, business to be conducted. But no. Everything closed. I'm so glad to see this. Polish people, Polish nation and politicians have the guts to do that. We are doing that. Latvian, Lithuanians. The issue begins with Central Europe. I don't see strong resolve there. I wish to see it as I see it in Poland. This is how we all must behave with the Russians. I just want to show you also where it is. Bialystok is the city, and here goes 2 border crossings. So these border crossings close to Lithuania on the northern eastern border with Belarus, these are closed to railway also, and everything is closed, of course. And my friends, I will end the international news with Russian drones in Romania. Yeah, they were in Poland, and then Poland called NATO, Article 4. In the meetings it was decided we need to hit back, and they started Operation Eastern Sentry. Now, about a year and a half, they started Operation Baltic Sentry, which put a lot of NATO vessels on the Baltic Sea, always watching what the Russians do. Now it's Eastern Sentry, which put a lot of troops on the ground in Poland and Western fighter jets in Poland, additional Western fighter jets. Well, now Russians breached Romanian airspace. 2 Russian drones were 15 minutes over Romanian airspace. They were shadowed by the F-16s of Romania, of NATO. They were not shot down, and they connected back to Ukraine in the Odessa Oblast. And Romanians said that we didn't shoot them down because they were not over any urbanized areas, and they went back to Ukraine. For me, I cannot agree with this because these drones went back to Ukraine to kill Ukrainians. So you could have prevented that, but you didn't. So it hurts me. What I say always on this channel, shoot it down as soon as it crosses the border. If it's a fighter jet, shoot it down. Immediately, from the first second, destroy it. Send missiles. But maybe I'm too far, I don't know. It pains me to see this. It pains me to see that. You can see it on a video. I'm so glad I have a video for you again. Like today, good day for videos. These are the F-16s in Romania, just flying behind 2 Russian Shahed drones, not shooting them down, just allowing these drones to fly back into Ukraine to kill Ukrainian civilians. I hate to report this, but I have to in the name of truth. And I say it again, if this happens again, whatever it be, Russian tanker plane, fighter jet, whatever, shoot it down from the first second. My friends, this concludes today's video. In the next one, I definitely have all of these sections for you: frontline, Russian economy, and the international news, and maybe something more. So be back. I'll be keeping you up to date of everything I just talked about today. I'll be going over it again because then I have more information. I'll be back for you on Wednesday, so in 2 days. In the meantime, please subscribe to the channel. Slava Ukraini, and bye bye.